Hey, what's up, everyone? Asani Fisher here with an impromptu edition of the SCS podcast. I'm actually here in LA with Aaron Jones for the FanDuel Playboy Live Final, and we just attended the Clippers Warriors game, and we decided it'd be a good time for our podcast. What's going on, man?
From that particularly ugly game, the Warriors won by at least 20 because we left. We couldn't watch anymore. It might still be Austin Rivers might still be chucking up shots right now. And that, I guess you can give your impressions of that game as well, but I don't think it was all that interesting. I think it was just the Warriors even ran bad. I feel like they missed open shots in the first half. Hit some ridiculous 38-foot bank shot three. Draymond Green bodied up Blake. Blake got nothing easy. Chris Paul couldn't get anything in the post. It just looked like the varsity versus JV team. I don't know what you thought, but
yeah, it's pretty absurd that the Clippers are a title contender, and that's what the Warriors can do to them.
Title contender.
For me, something I hadn't really thought about before tonight. Everyone looks at the Warriors, the death lineup, and wants to talk about how great that is that they can have Durant or Curry on the floor against second units, and that's just unfair.
Right. I mean, their splits are like they've been preferring to play like Clay and Durant together, I think, although they'll match up with teams, I think, and then keep Steph and Draymond on the floor together. But it just doesn't matter what they do. I mean, they pull Durant out. Durant plays in three stints, so Durant will like play the first 6 minutes, sit for a couple, play around the turn of the quarter with the backups, sit for a couple more when the rest of the starters come back in, and then close the quarter. But it's just like there's always two top 20 players on the floor in any game that matters, and that is ridiculous. I mean, when you think about what a lot of these just don't even forget the Clippers. Think about what the Detroit Pistons second units look like. It's like, oh, we'll keep Tobias Harris out there with Aaron Baines and Ish Smith. Oh, we'll bring out Stanley Johnson and all that. These guys that are fine, interesting players or whatever, but these guys are going to wind up guarding Durant in any game that matters or whatever, and it is unfair. It's unfair.
I thought you had a pretty funny comment, halfway through the first quarter or whatever. You turned to me and you go, the Clippers are kind of one player away from being competitive. Unfortunately, that player is like Jimmy Butler. Yeah. It's not just a role player.
I actually had the same thought about the Rockets the other day because they played such a fun game where the Rockets beat the Rockets beat the Warriors in double overtime. I thought, man, if the Rockets just had one more player, I'm not saying they would beat the Warriors because there's probably no team that's one player away unless that player is like LeBron, because that's how far ahead they are of everybody else. But Jimmy Butler, again, they would be competitive. It'd be a fun series. It might go to 6. It might go to 7. They might have some puncher's chance of making some crazy threes. Instead, you're going to see a second round series of whoever the Warriors face, assuming health, and they will be minus 1,500. They will be minus 1,500.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it's going to be.
It's just
you've never seen that.
It's mismatch city all over the
at
floor.
all positions. Layups and dunks. But layups, dunks, and threes. Layups, dunks, and threes.
You pointed out J.J. Redick during the game. J.J. Redick's a great player. We love him. He's turned himself into a very useful NBA player. He just can barely stay on the floor because he's too small to guard Clay, and he's not going to guard Steph.
I mean, I haven't watched every Clippers-Warriors game, but even when the Clippers 5 is together, they haven't done well against the Warriors. Even the starting unit, they just haven't historically done well. And Clay has done well historically against them 3-4 years, probably even going back to the year that the Clippers beat them, the last time they beat them, which might have been 2012 or something like that, the Mark Jackson era. I don't know. Anyways, but they've always done well against them. Specifically, Clay has done well against the Clippers. All of his impressive defense, he does a nice job on Harden, not fouling, and he can stay in front of guys a little bit, and he works really hard, and he pays attention off ball. All these things. Clay is a different level of athlete. He's 2.5-ish inches taller than him. He's got a lot of wingspan on him because JJ has notoriously short arms, and the result is just yeah.
Yeah, there was one point in the game where I think it was Wesley Johnson and Austin Rivers were guarding Durant and Curry. We're just this is their main rival, right? You know what I mean?
I mean, it's there was a lot of talk about the Clippers and how good they've been for the first quarter of the season, or maybe the first eighth of the season, honestly, because we're out about the first quarter right now. And they've backslid a little bit with some not great losses. They lost in Brooklyn without Blake, but still a bad loss. Anyways, so there's been some kind of people have retracted statements about how good the Clippers were. And I think that what it really tonight really teaches me, and just have to remind myself, is in the macro, that much. Variance happens on a game-to-game basis when there's injuries or when there's good matchups or when there's hot shooting. Level, the Golden State Warriors team, and they will not be losing. So you can watch game to game, and you can overreact to things. And then there are, at this point in time, we've got a 20-game sample on a lot of these teams. And there are things I'm changing my mind about, but the Warriors beating the Clippers is not one of them.
Yeah, you had a funny tweet where you're saying team's defensive rating.
Yeah.
You need to first specify whether or not they played the Warriors yet this year, because if they have, it's the hugest out here ever, and throws the rankings all out of whack.
Right. I mean, I'm looking at team offensive and defensive ratings so far this year, and I promise you, and the Clippers are number 1 in D rating, and I promise you they will not be.
Right. All right, let's move on. The NBA season has mostly gone according to expectations so far. Not a lot of surprises. So what we wanted to do here was kind of highlight a few teams that have stuck out to us that maybe are either better or worse than we expected. Los Angeles Lakers would be the first one up. After last year, they obviously were one of the jokes of the league. This year, it's looking like they might make the playoffs. Lou Williams is a very serviceable player all of a sudden. He's playing defense. Nick Young is a serviceable player. Is this just coaching?
The biggest thing you can take away from the Lakers is coaching.
And no Kobe?
No one – because I've been saying it all last season. Every smart NBA person has been saying it. No one can truly understand just how embarrassing Byron Scott and Kobe Bryant were last year and how harmful they were to wins. I mean, you just can't fathom how bad that coach and that player was if your goal is to win NBA games. And people knew that, and people wanted to watch the Kobe tour anyways. And honestly, it helped them in the long run, so I don't care. But those guys were bad. Luke Walton is pretty good. Luke Walton, people forget that Luke Walton was the coach, although, of course, a lot of Kerr's system put in. Luke Walton was the coach when the Warriors started 30-0 last year, right? He was the coach for that entire stretch because Kerr was out with migraines. He did something Kerr wouldn't, but it means he kept the team together. It means that he kept everyone in check. It means that he kept everyone happy. It means, he kept, Kerr likes to play all these random guys on the end of the bench. It means he just did all of these things correct. That's all it means. Yeah. And he's doing them right again. I mean, Nick Young almost got cut before the season, and now Nick Young is playing decent basketball. He's been hurt for the last 4 or 5 games. But he's playing well. People are forgetting about the D'Angelo Russell Nick Young Snapchat thing where he broke up like an engagement or something with the whole with him, outing with the whole cell phone thing or whatever.
It's kind of amazing what winning does.
It really is, yeah, and it's unbelievable. Now those guys are friends, and people totally forgot about it. So that's super interesting. Maybe has been better than expected. I'm still selling Julius Randle stock. I just think that they paid a lot of money for Deng and Mozgov, and kind of funnily enough, those guys have not been good. Those guys have not even been closing. Deng's been playing like 22 minutes a game. Mozgov probably about the same. And the young guys have been okay. They have a decent amount of depth, I guess. I mean, I think people forget. Lou Williams was really good 2 years ago. And then Lou Williams was mired in a year of Kobe Bryant. Is outside of Kobe Bryant again, and he's pretty good at that. I don't think Lou is like the 30th best player in the league or anything. And sixth man or role playing scorer, he can get buckets.
Yeah. hearing mainstream media credit Kobe Bryant for the young players' development because they had to see up close and personal his work ethic and his will to win. It's all just paying dividends now.
Unquantifiable. It's not paying dividends right now.
It's crazy that
it didn't do any of this.
It pays dividends as soon as he leaves, of course, because that's what they had to. Yeah. I put you on the spot here. Will it continue? And I guess the big question is, do you think they'll make the playoffs? You have to bet right now.
No, I think that they are probably 5-1 dogs or 6-1 dogs to make the playoffs. I'm not exactly sure who needs health in the West or who makes a random run. Maybe the Pelicans, but they're like 7-15 or something, and they banked so many losses. There's a lot of teams that are a decent bet to make a run and make the playoffs, and I don't think they can do it. I don't think they sustain. Just not quite enough talent. I think just a little bit too little talent.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. D'Angelo Russell could just continue to improve throughout the year. By the playoff time, he could be like 30th best player in the league.
He could. He's missed the last 5 or 6 with some kind of. He's doing some kind of knee injections or something.
Is it a serious thing? Or
I don't think so. I think that his timetable was like 3 weeks or something. And if I had to guess, it reads into them being overly cautious. I don't know what it was exactly. He had a little bit of swelling or something like that. I don't know. I haven't heard that it's like a meniscus tear or anything like that. So I think he'll be okay. I think they're probably just giving him a little extra time, basically, because he's their prized piece.
Right. So in a similar vein, I think the Milwaukee Bucks surprised us a little bit. You mentioned Julius Randle. Not that they're necessarily the same type of player, but in the same way that I think we were both down on Julius Randle, we were both down on Jabari Parker coming into the league.
This is actually pretty funny. Jabari is one of the guys, and I can't think of the entire list off the top of my head. Few guys that I was down on coming into the league. Actually, one of them too. I was down on them coming into the league. They played terribly, and now I like them. It doesn't really make a ton of sense, but just something that I've eye tested about Jabari I like. He hasn't stretched it out to the 3-point line just yet, but he's not dead. He's like low 30s this year on some reasonable volume. And he certainly can't play defense or grab a rebound, but he might not have to, right? I mean, what if he is, and the guy is an incredible athlete. He's not quite drawing veteran fouls just yet because he's still so young. What if he's just Amari Stoudemire with a 3-point shot? What if he never learns to play? But how good is that player? What if he just never learns to play any defense and they have to have, D wing around him on one side and they have to have a good rim protector on the other side? But what if the guy's just like such an unbelievable roll-man finisher and can shoot threes? That's a pretty good NBA player. He's got an 18.6 PER. They've played a bit of a cupcake schedule, I think, so far this year, but they've been a pleasant surprise. Over 500. Average in defense or average in offense, which I think is better than most expected, and good in defense, maybe like 6th or 7th in the league in defense. So been a pretty good team so far. They've surprised some people.
Right. One of my favorite things in the NBA, I might have actually mentioned this on a podcast before, just because I love it so much, is when Giannis starts, he picks up his dribble at a spot where you don't think it's humanly possible to even get a layup, and he ends up dunking it somehow. Like he picks up the ball like at the free throw line, does a Euro step, and then just
yeah, he does the Inspector Gadget Euro step, and then he just drops it in. You just can't even believe that his arms can reach that. It reminds me of, this is just like not a catchy nickname, but he reminds me of Dawson from Street Fighter. Remember?
Yeah.
Sticks his arm out like that, and he's just like a giant person. It's insane. So he's accelerated his timeline for sure. I have his numbers up right here, 7.1 PER, but he's the type of player the PER would overrate in theory because he's a high volume shooter and he's a guy that's got the ball in his hands a lot. He's one of his 3-point percentage is only 25%. He's taking 2.5 a game, but he's starting to take them. And I think starting to take them is step one to starting to make them. I know that sounds like kind of a weird thing, but I think that's a start. And he's one of those guys where they've been really good with him off the court, or really good with him on the court and really bad with him off, in a similar vein to Russ and James Harden and Anthony Davis, these super teams with one guy who's so much better than the rest of the team. that no one else even comes close. Really an incredible year in the NBA for guys like that. So much talent. Really crazy. Yeah.
So same question I asked you regarding the Bucks about the Lakers. Can they keep it up? Would you predict them to make the playoffs if you had to right now?
They are 11-9. I don't have their strength of schedule in front of me. They're 11-9, and I would bet that they. I just, first of all, they're always an injury to Giannis away, or an injury to Jabari probably away. They're just so thin. I mean, you think about who they've got. They traded for Tony Snell right before the season. Has played a ton of minutes for them so far this year. And actually, I think Tony Snell is like a pretty serviceable NBA player. Look at them. Here's who they're getting minutes from.
So the MCW trade?
Yes, that was just MCW for Snell straight up. They're getting 500 minutes from Dellavedova. He's decent. Tony Snell is their fourth most minutes played, 528 minutes. 390 minutes from Malcolm Brogdon. You probably don't even know who he is, right? He's a rookie out of Virginia or something. I don't know. He's actually looked halfway decent, I think. Getting minutes out of Beasley. They're getting minutes out of Mirza. I mean, they're thin. If they have to go back to the Rashad Vaughn they're going to be totally screwed. So at the moment, they've also gotten 330 minutes out of John Henson, who I think is their best big. They've got a little bit of like awkward depth at center, where they've got like John Henson and Greg Monroe and Miles Plumlee. If you want, I mean, it's unimpressive depth. That's depth, but at every other position, they're insanely thin. They just couldn't sustain an injury. If they had to sustain an injury to Matthew Dellavedova, they would have 35 minutes out of 40-year-old Jason Terry. Right. Yeah, so that's a team where like they're just so thin.
Real quick, Jason Terry probably with the move of the season so far and tricking J.R. Smith.
Oh my God!
If you haven't seen this, hold on. If any of the listeners haven't seen this yet, it's got to be up on YouTube. Just Google or YouTube search J.R. Smith, Jason Terry. He distracts J.R. Jason Terry's on the bench. He distracts J.R. Smith while J.R. Smith is on the floor, supposed to be playing defense.
Not even a real distraction. He just gives him depth. He's just like, yo, J.R., what's up, J.R.? And he just goes over, and then J.R. just outside defense. I don't even know if it was a dead ball. J.R. stops playing outside defense to say what's up, and then his man gets it done.
Right. The comparison between the Bucks and the Lakers is pretty interesting because they're both teams with a lot of young pieces that have potential. Then they made moves bringing in veteran guys that we both hated before the year, and we were right. We think we still feel confident that we were right about that. The veteran pieces haven't panned out, but the young talent has just carried them, and they've both been pretty successful so far.
Yeah, I mean, Miles Plumlee has played 198 minutes behind, and he's obviously behind both John Henson and Greg Monroe in the depth chart. I mean, I guess Monroe leaves in the offseason, and then you're paying $1 a year to Miles Plumlee to be your backup center. I mean, I guess. I don't know. It's a disaster. It was a horribly conceived offseason. I mean, these teams are getting what they want this year. Both teams will have a chance to playoffs. Both teams will not make the playoffs, in my opinion. And if they do, it's only to get their teeth kicked in by the number 1 seed.
Right.
And that's it. And that's so if the GM's job gets saved because of that, hey, high five. That guy gets to make another $1 million or whatever he's making for next season. And if the GM's job doesn't get saved, then just hamstrung their future.
Yeah. All right. So on the opposite end of the spectrum, a team we kind of expected to take the next step this year and really hasn't so far. The Minnesota Timberwolves. Rubio's been bad, and is that the main thing? Because it seems like Levine, at least from I mostly focus on things from a DFS perspective, but Towns, Levine, Wiggins have kind of been crushing it.
Yeah.
So is it just Rubio or what?
Rubio's been bad. I think that what you have with them is also a lack of depth. Shabazz Muhammad hasn't been any good. Either. I kind of like Shabazz. He's another guy I hated coming into the draft, and then I saw him play. I was like, you know what? He can kind of bully smaller players in the post. His shot doesn't look horrible. Maybe he makes a workable three-pointer from the corner only, and he hasn't done that. He's failed at that.
I think of him almost like a Corey Brewer, a second unit type that could maybe energize the team.
Could be. I think he's failed so far in that role. I get that that's what people see him as, and I don't think he's dead to become that. although maybe he's like 30 years old. I mean, I'm joking, obviously, but remember there was that whole thing where like it came out that he and his dad said he was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because like when he was 12, his dad was like, "Oh man, what if he starts playing with the 11-year-olds or whatever it was?" And he just like changed his birth certificate or something. He played back a year in order to become the #1 prospect, and then failed miserably at UCLA, and then whatever. Anyways, bottom line is he's not dead to become something, but he hasn't shown anything this year. You've got lack of depth. You've got 3 guys that have played well this year, and not a lot else. The guy that I want to highlight is Chris Dunn. So people got really excited about Chris Dunn in the draft. The Bulls tried to trade up for him, and that why people were so excited about Dunn. Actually, that's not true. Pretty prolific steal rates in college, and I understood why people were interested in him, but he highlights the problem with the 23-year-old rookie. Is a full 3 years older than Jamal Murray, who got drafted a couple spots later. 1 or 2 spots later. And he's worse. He's like much worse right now.
I think it was 2 later, right? Because didn't Hield also go before?
Hield went 6th. Yeah, you're right. Hield went 6th.
2 guys who were supposed to be ready to contribute.
2 guys who were
Murray's clearly better right now.
And Murray is clearly better right now. And honestly, you talk to smart people, they thought Murray would be better right away too. I mean, I sure as hell didn't have either of those guys ahead of Murray in my big board, and a ton of smart people didn't. That I want to be clear, Dunn is not dead to be an NBA player. This is the cautionary tale of why you don't take a rookie and expect him to contribute right away. Because there is so much development to 23 that getting a guy at age 19 or whatever Murray is, I think he's 19, is just awesome. It's great. Mm-hmm. You get a guy that is, maybe not ready just yet, but by year 2 or 3 he's ready, because they're never ready in year 1. There's been like maybe in the history of the NBA, there's probably been 24 positive players as a rookie. That's how insane it is and how difficult it is for a guy that young to contribute in a man's league.
And the funny thing is, a lot of them are random second rounders, like Landry Fields and Josh Richardson. Guys who can contribute right away.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. You guys like putting up some decent stats or whatever. Oftentimes they're just like so lost on defense, they're not actually doing anything. But yeah, I'm not like down on the Wolves just yet. But the roster isn't there just yet. They need a bit more outside shooting. He just isn't there. Maybe Levine and Wiggins need the ball in their and Towns. Maybe all 3 of those guys need the ball in their hands so much to be running pick and roll and pick and pop. Maybe Rubio just can't be your point guard. Maybe you'd rather. So perfect example of Dunn's deficiencies. Tyus Jones has been better than him. Tyus Jones was a late first-round draft pick, played a bunch in the D-League, and is in year 3, I think, now. Yeah. And he's better than Dunn and younger than Dunn.
Is he really?
Yeah. He's still younger than Dunn. So, Dunn's going to be 23 before the season's over. Al Wiggins is probably younger than Dunn.
Yeah.
I mean, the point is just that, guy and say this guy's ready because they just never are.
For a bit. I had Dean DeMarcus on this podcast 2 episodes ago, and he kind of first made his name for being, majorly anti-Wiggins when he came into the league. And I think he actually put out an update article you can find at deanondraft.com where he article, but it included a lot of stats that basically being like, look, I'm still right about Wiggins. He's just not very good. He really is super ISO heavy, kills the flow of an offense, and this 3-and-D prospect that we thought might be there doesn't seem to exist.
I honestly just can't. Dean tried to quantify some stats. I'm pretty good, I think, at the MAC. I watch about an NBA game a night, let's say, right? And so in the micro sense, I've probably watched a total of like 60 minutes of the Wolves this year. So I try not to say too much unless I see something that specifically stands out about a player. In shot selection, I'm not going to judge his defense based on that 60-minute sample that I've seen. If I actually went and watched film, I'm not a scout, but if I actually went and watched film on Wiggins, I might have a better I might have a better handle on it. Dean did provide some DRPM and some different stats that suggest Wiggins is not a good defender. Athleticism, it would be pretty difficult for him not to just become an average defender. I mean, he provides some small amount of like rim protection from the wing, which is like a really awkward and valuable thing. Like unique is better than awkward.
Sure.
A unique and valuable thing. He does some things in transition. The reason I'm willing to just ignore Dean's article, basically, not ignore, because he does good work and the stats are great. You guys should definitely read that. The reason that I'm buying Wiggins stock and I'm bullish on him is because the guy is shooting 4 threes per 36, and he's shooting them at 38.3%, and he's 21 years old. And so he's nowhere near the shooter that Klay Thompson was. But when Klay Thompson was bombing threes his first 3 years in the league, and he was shooting 4 every single year, and everyone was saying, metrics, but Klay's advanced stats, but Klay's this, but Klay's that. I said, slow your roll, guys. It is incredibly valuable to be an awesome three-point shooter in the NBA, and all the other stuff valuable follows when you can do that. So I'm encouraged by the early season, relatively small sample of Wiggins taking relatively difficult quality threes, a lot of pull-up threes off the dribble and shooting 38% of them. And even if that regresses to 35 or 36, I'm willing to bet it's 38 or 39 for his prime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Wiggins is probably the classic case of eye test versus stats and how you want to project him going forward. We were talking about his defense. There's a popular clip that all of the Wiggins fans will point to. I think it was last year he got switched on to James Harden, or maybe he was just guarding him the entire possession. And from an eye test perspective, he pretty much eye test as much as you can on one defensive possession. He slid his feet well, he stayed with him, and then blocked a shot. And I think then he ran down and got an alley-oop on the other end. Granted, that's one play. It's like, based on that, people basically want to say when he's locked in, he can do that. Therefore, he must have the tools to be a good defender.
It's not totally unreasonable to see things like that and have aggressive hot takes. I would say that unless you're a scout and watch, this is actually the weirdest analogy anyone is ever going to make on any podcast ever.
Very excited.
But you know how they say that, like, if you're going to be in a relationship, you have to be able to take like the casual Wednesdays or something like that. It's not like the highs or whatever, or like the holidays or whatever. Like, you really just have to want to take like the casual one. Like, nothing is the consistency. To me,
you care more about the median than the outliers.
Exactly. And to me, if you're not watching the casual Wednesdays of Andrew Wiggins' defensive possessions, you just don't know how good he is on defense. And I'm not watching them, right. So I don't know. Like, for every of those James Harden highlights, if there's 3 backdoor cuts he gives up, unacceptable. So I would say that, and the other thing too is that, remember, the narrative is that he's a little lazy, right? Or the narrative is that he doesn't have the motor. Like, that's been the narrative since like he was 18 or 17. Maybe he doesn't love basketball. Maybe he doesn't have the motor. There was an article that came out last year that was like, Towns questions Wiggins' work ethic. I don't know if these things are bullshit or the camp leaks them or whatever. The bottom line is there's enough narrative street stuff to now, if anyone can do it, it's Tibbs, right? There's just enough narrative street stuff to slightly question Wiggins' work ethic. And that would leave me a little questionable. So I'm selling him as a superstar. I'm buying him as a positive NBA player.
Fair enough. Let's move on to the one guy that I was probably most excited to talk about on this podcast. Our favorite player? Your favorite player for sure. Maybe he's my top 5.
He surpassed Robert Covington, my favorite player.
What a guy to surpass. Sorry, Robert Covington, if you happen to be watching this, you're now number 2. So you must be a big 76ers fan.
Big 76ers fan.
Because Joel Embiid is now your favorite player. Tell us why.
Embiid is the embodiment of all good things. Embiid is, I just can't even, Embiid is shooting like 3 or 4 threes a game or per 36 or something like that. at 50%. Now the sample size is like 40 shots or something like that.
But he looks good while shooting.
But he looks amazing while shooting them. So you just don't have and not only that, but the guy's usage is like 36 or something like that. So defenses know he's trying to take that shot, and at this point in time, probably starting to game plan for him. So you don't just shoot a 40. Nobody has shot. No bad 3-point shooter has shot like a 50% clip at over 40 shots. I mean, that's a stretch, obviously, but it's very unlikely. No 3-point shooter whose shot looks this good. The bottom line is rookie, and he's just going to be like a high 30s, low 40s% 3-point shooter on like a couple of attempts a game. And that is, I'm highlighting that because I love 3-point shooting. I love floor spacing. I love all the things that opens up for his game. But it's way more than that. The guy's got post moves. He has absolutely everything. He protects the rim on the other end. He's unbelievable, and he's got social media game.
He's got personality.
He's got personality. For everybody that hasn't read it, have to go back and read. I think it's Lee Jenkins. He always writes the really good pieces on these guys. Yeah, you have to go back and read his player profile of Joel Embiid.
All right, let's talk about MVP a little bit. In our previous show, we both picked Kawhi Leonard for MVP. I guess you kind of have to have Russell Westbrook there right now, averaging a triple-double, although the thing everyone wanted to throw out coming into the year is that if you're not a top 3 team in your conference, you pretty much never win MVP. I think the Thunder are 6 right now, something like that. Is he your pick right now?
Nah, I don't know. I don't know who my pick is, but it's not him.
Really?
I mean, maybe it's him. I just don't know. The NBA has been so absurd this year. It's kind of a joke.
He would clearly win right now if it was a vote, just based on.
I would say he would likely win because they've won 6 in a row, but they'll come down to earth a little bit, I think, and they'll wind up, making the playoffs probably as like the 7 seed or something like that. Can the MVP? Can he win it if he's a 7 seed? It's this really okay. So let's just go through everybody quickly. Kevin Durant has been otherworldly good. I don't have to say the numbers. Maybe he splits the vote weirdly, or people are pissed at him because he left the team. I have no idea. He has been absurdly good. I would probably pick him for MVP. Best team, and in my opinion, the best player on the best team. His efficiency has been so insane. No perimeter player has ever had the efficiency is unbelievably good. He's been killing it every single game and protecting the rim, which is that's even more important. So I'd probably pick him. Kawhi has been great. The Spurs have been great. Anthony Davis has been great. The Pelicans have been mostly bad, but they've been better since Drew is back. I mean, these guys are putting up insane. In any normal year, I mean, we have the equivalent of probably like 6 to 11 legitimate MVP candidates.
The NBA is so good right now.
It's very, very good right now.
It's insane. I hate this. You hear a lot from the old school about how they couldn't. Today's generation couldn't handle the hand checking or the toughness or the physicality of the 1980s, and then you see a picture of Bill Laimbeer next to LeBron James, and you just realize what bullshit that argument is.
Right. I mean, even a guy like Damian Lillard is sort of came to a new level. No shot. Like, I'm not saying he deserves. He's got like a 26 PR or something insane. I'm not even saying he deserves a shot. I'm just saying he's got no shot, and he's had an incredible season. Basically.
How about this? We've been talking for 2 minutes about MVP, and we haven't mentioned LeBron James and James Harden.
I was eventually going to get there. The point is just that there are 10 guys in the league, and it's so damn hard to pick between them. I personally picked Durant because it seems like he's doing a bit more rim protecting this year, and I'm more concerned with defense than anything else. I had to actually pick who people would vote for right now. I would probably pick Harden. They're tied in the loss column for the 3 seed.
I think you're underestimating the triple-double. Russ wins in a landslide, I think.
I'm probably underestimating that. There was an article that I haven't read that came out today talking about how Harden's actually been more impressive as far as one-man teams go. Retweeted by Jalen Morey, of course. I don't actually know. I just haven't done a deep dive on which one of these guys has actually been better. I suppose Russ wins right now because they are 14-8. But my opinion is that the team that does better relative to preseason expectations is the guy that would get it. So let's just say that the Thunder were supposed to be around the 7th seed and the Rockets were supposed to be around the 5th seed. The team that does, if the Thunder get the 6th, but the Rockets get the 3, Harden probably just wins.
Right.
It's silly that that's how it works, but that's kind of what you'll probably see. Likewise, if something insane happened and the Spurs got the 1, Kawhi might win.
Yeah.
Because remember, all these things are correlated, right? So, if the Spurs do get the 1 seed, they're only a game or 2 back of the Warriors. If the Spurs do get the 1 seed, then the result is that Kawhi played insanely good.
Yeah.
And he's come a little bit back down to earth from his insane start, but he's still been great, on the whole. Yeah, that's what you'll see. You'll see the guy win it from the team that's and that's probably why Durant can't win, because the Warriors probably won't win 74. 64.
I don't know. After seeing him, I'm not sure about that. But how insane is it? I had a tweet that I'm thinking of right now last week. Arguably the top 3 in MVP right now: James Harden, Russell Westbrook. The Oklahoma City had all 3 of those guys, plus Serge Ibaka, plus Reggie Jackson just chilling on the bench, all under 23 years old 5 years ago. All right, so here's a hypothetical question. Obviously, that Reggie Jackson doesn't really fit in with that group that well. Let's pretend together. And I don't know, say they traded Reggie Jackson to get a serviceable center and clone Kevin Durant. So that team,
can we just take out the common denominator and play 4-on-4? Or what?
Ooh, that'd be interesting. Maybe Durant can ref to be or something.
4-on-4, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and Serge against Dre, Clay, Steph, and Iguodala. That would be fun, yeah.
Especially with all that open space that 4-on-4.
There's so much space. That would be great.
But 4-on-4 would be pretty awesome. Just
it would. I mean, I think they finally went to 3-on-3 or something in hockey overtime. What if they went to 4-on-4?
Yeah. Well, with athletes getting bigger and bigger, and obviously they're not going to make the court bigger because they need maximum seating and for revenue purposes. See it, but it does make some theoretical sense, and the owners would save money by paying one less player.
Agreed.
All right. I think that just about does it. Anything else you want to add NBA related?
No, not really.
Cool. Sorry, I haven't been getting these out more. We got all these live finals. I'm going to the DraftKings one in New York. Aaron will be there as well, and then we got the FanDuel one the week after that. I actually intended to podcast this week with Matthew Way. Some of you guys may know him as MJW on 2+2, or he writes for B-Ball Breakdown and what's the name of the Pistons website, pistonspowered.com. So I'm going to be in discussions with him and get him on the podcast in coming weeks, and then I'll do some more and solo episodes as well. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Aaron.